You must expect a miracle.
You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. I'm Randy Robinson. Good to have you guys here on this Friday. There's something coming up next week that you need to know about. It is a conference in Florida, Melbourne, Florida, that you probably can't register for if you don't have plans already. But here's the thing. You can join them online. And I would suggest that you check it out, and we'll tell you how to do that, because they have a goal that when I read it, I went, well, okay. And their goal is to fulfill the Great Commission by 2030. That's 8 years from now. That is quite the goal. How can we even do that? Is that even possible? What does it look like? We're going to talk about all those things, and I have two great guests with me. Bobby Schuller, a friend of the ministry. I mean, Bobby and his family, they've been ministering for so many years, and Bobby's now the lead pastor at Shepherd's Grove in Irvine, California. And my other guest is Dr. James Davis, who is the president of the Global Church Network. And the Global Church Network is putting on this conference. If you're in the Melbourne, Florida area, my goodness, you can make plans and go. But the rest of you, I would recommend you look at going online, joining them. It's going to be good. So, chat is open. We invite you to be a part of the conversation today, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, Dr. Davis, let's start with you. And since you're the guy that put this whole thing together, how in the world did you decide we're going to complete the Great Commission in 8 years?
Well, this has been a journey, Randy, and it's an honor to be with you and your audience worldwide. Thank you for the opportunity. 20 years ago, I walked out of the Assemblies of God World Headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, and the Holy Spirit quickened my heart to call the late Dr. Bill Bright, founder of Campus Crusade for Christ, and I did. And we began to talk about the future. And so we linked arms together 20 years ago and formed the Global Church Network. And we launched it at First Baptist in Orlando, Florida, 20 years ago. And then over this 2-decade period of time, I'm grateful to be able to say that as Dr. Bright went on to receive his eternal reward, the network has continued to grow. We often say that the second word in network is work. And so how do you make a net that works? Well, you tie relational knots for global impact. And so over time, the network has grown to over 700,000 local churches worldwide. And we are now focused on mobilizing, synergizing the body of Christ to get to the finish line. So the church is about to celebrate its 2,000-year birthday. And I can't think of anything grander than to do our very best to get to the finish line by that 2,000-year birthday of the church.
Now, I'm looking at the list of people that are speaking, including Bobby, who's on with us right now.
Yes.
But also, you've got a wide range, because you've got our good friend here in Dallas, Dr. Robert Jeffress. Of course, you got
incredible brother.
You got Sheila Walsh, right here, my co-host on the broadcast, Dr. James Merritt. But then you've got Tommy Barnett, another great friend of the ministry. You've got Dr. Doug Beecham, who is with the International Pentecostal Holiness Church. Mm-hmm. This is a multi-denominational event. I'm guessing that's intentional.
Yes, it is. There's over 2,700 different denominations now in the Global Church Network. When Dr. Bright and I launched the network, we made the main thing the main thing. And we often say if we could just get past ego and logo and get to go, we could actually finish the Great Commission. And so I'm so grateful to be able to say that there's an incredible diversity in the network today. And the men and women who are involved, they're all about the mission, about letting the remaining unreached people groups around the world hear the gospel. And this event takes place in the heart of Orlando, Florida at SeaWorld DoubleTree. And we've hosted it every other year since 2002. And so we're celebrating our 20th anniversary.
All right. Now, Bobby, you got just a few days before you speak. So have you prepared your message? I'm curious, what is it that you're going to say to pastors and leaders and people in the church that will move us down the road towards fulfilling the Great Commission?
Well, of course, I'm always so humbled to be able to speak to other pastors. I mean, I'm sure they have a lot that they could teach me. And that's one of the things I'm also really excited about is just meeting other pastors, because the dynamic has changed so much since COVID about how to do ministry, how to reach churches. But one of the things, our family has been in media ministry for a long time, starting with television and radio. And that used to be the main medium that people would think of communicating the gospel. And it used to be that only humongous churches and churches with multi-million-dollar budgets could go on television. But now, I mean, anybody can do it. And sort of, I was at a denominational gathering, and I sort of made a joke, and I said, all of us are televangelists now, because we all had to make the switch in COVID and we had to learn what it meant to talk to a camera. We had to learn what it meant to have good lighting, good audio, and how the medium, in many ways becomes the message. I mean, people are hearing a sermon online. And so I think that's going to be one of the things that we really need to address, is how to continue to do media well. But the exciting thing when you think about the Great Commission in the end days is reaching the whole world. How, you can preach a gospel message now and anybody in the world can hear it. We have, even in communist China, we have multiple people using VPNs to get on and watch. They can't watch TV, but they can watch sermons, illegally. They're breaking the law, but they're still doing it. And that's why I'm just so excited about Dr. Davis's vision, that it's not just for America, it's for the whole world. And I'm excited to be a part of mobilizing and bringing whatever gifts I have to help people learn how to do that better.
Okay, a little inside baseball, Bobby, because you and I have been in media ministry, like you say, for a long time.
Sure.
And I mean, we're really, from an insider position, the whole landscape has changed. And when we go overseas, we do a lot of third world outreach. A lot of those people skip like the whole landline phase of things. And
I know.
Right?
That's right.
And now they're straight to mobile. And because of the mobile and its penetration into just areas you never thought would have anything, we really can reach into places that we've never been able to reach before. I'm guessing that you guys have seen that over the last decade, where you're getting responses from places you're like, how in the world did they see us? Well, it's online, right? You getting a lot of that kind of feedback?
Well, yeah, we are for sure. I'm sure Dr. Davis is. He was telling me when he visited like a month ago that he just built a building on base camp in Mount Everest, which is like such an amazing story to me. And just talk about a visionary. But I think that the world is becoming, whether we like it or not, feeling more and more like a spaceship just going around the sun. I mean, it really is feeling like a global village because of technology. But for believers, that's a great thing, because I think so often we've thought of, we American Christians have thought of Christianity as kind of an American thing, but it's just not, right? I mean, it's so much older than our country. We got believers in Africa, in Asia, all over the world who have not had access sometimes to good teaching. And we've even had some exposure to some things that were developed in other countries. Like a lot of churches do this discipleship program called Rooted. Well, that was developed in Africa, and they came up with this amazing program that works for us in America. And so I think there really is a benefit. It's part of God's plan. I think we shouldn't be afraid of technology, that although there's some bad things about it, I think we're in another phase of the dawn of a new printing press. And I think that's exciting. We can utilize technology to get our message to literally anyone around the world. I think that's terrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tool. Like anything, it's a tool. Technology is a tool. The question is, what are we going to do with it? And as the church, I love that you guys are rising up and really taking hold of it. Dr. Davis, when I grew up in the 80s, I was reading books like Through Gates of Splendor and seeing movies about missionaries who would, leave everything behind, fly a little puddle jumper plane into the Amazon to reach a people group that had never heard the gospel. I'm curious, are there still people groups around the world who haven't heard the gospel? And if so, how do we get to them?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. There's an incredible missional shift that has been taking place for many years now. And it's no longer the West going to the rest, but the best around the world going to the rest of the world. In other words, the global church today is not looking for parents, but partners. The church has grown up all over the world. The greatest, strongest churches in the world are not in North America. They're all overseas. And that is an incredible partnership opportunity. And so with that in mind, we need to strategically identify the remaining unreached people groups, which we have done as a global church network, and other organizations have done the same. And we have to be willing to synergize our efforts together to get there. So for example, one of the great challenges of finishing the Great Commission is Bible translation. And we celebrate the fact that there are over 700 different languages of the Bible in the world today. But it took 150 years to do it. In order to finish the Great Commission in any generation and in any century, we're going to have to partner with the men and women all over the world just to finish Bible translation. There's over 6,000 languages yet to go. And we know the list. So the way we get to the finish line is to partner with the men and women that God has raised up all over the world, empower them, equip them, and let them jump in with both hands and both feet and help get it done. And that's how we're going to get to the finish line. You know, I often say that the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line, but a close relationship. Because with a phenomenal relationship, there is no distance at all. And so therefore, that's how we're going to get to the finish line, is really synergizing our efforts together in the hardest unreached places yet. There's about 2 billion people on this planet who have never heard the gospel one time. Our audience today, by and large, is getting ready for the second coming of Christ, but this group doesn't know he ever came the first time. And that is got to be the focus as we head to the finish line together.
All right, I want to show you guys a website. This is the globalchurchnetwork.tv website. You can go straight to the conference at synergize.tv. Both of those are in the chat. But either way, you can see the conference there coming up next week. You can go on there, register, participate virtually, which is great. But I do have one question, and both of you, either you, I don't know, Dr. Davis, we'll start with you, but as great as technology is it really a substitute for face-to-face personal relationship discipleship? And I'm guessing you would agree with me that it's not quite there. And so I'm curious about how you see the relationship between personal interaction and the technology.
Bobby, would you like to go first since you serve as a lead pastor there? Would you like to?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would view technology the same way you view a book. You know, technology is a means for transferring information. And in the same way you can get carried away in an amazing book or story, you can get carried away in technology. You can have a lot of positive benefits. There's a lot of negative, terrible stuff on the internet too, but we shouldn't be afraid of it. And we also shouldn't see it as a substitute. I don't think things like the metaverse and things like that, I think they're going to be alluring to a gamer type person, but I think that it'll never be the same as sitting down with a friend or a loved one and praying with them or sharing a good meal with them. And I think that's always been true. It'll always be true. And there will always be a need for the church. My experience has been that the better we do at getting a wide television or internet audience, the more people come to church. It's not like people go, oh, I can just watch online, and it's like advertising. You know, it's the greater your technology is, the more people want to come and see you and meet the people in your church and be a part of your culture. So I see it as a first step towards people entering into a meaningful experience in a living, vibrant church.
I would agree with you, Bobby, that there really is no substitute for the local church. And we believe that technology and the availability that we have today really does help us on many different fronts, but there's nothing like being with God's people in that same place. You know, it's, for example, when we think of the Old Testament, God's presence has always been everywhere, but yet his presence was unique in the Holy of Holies like it wasn't everywhere else in the world. We know that God's presence is everywhere today. But when God's people get together in that local assembly, his presence is divinely unique there in a way that it is not everywhere else in the world. And so there really isn't a substitute for the local church.
Yeah. Now, so when we look at people who haven't heard the gospel at all, and we're talking about using technology to at least give them some exposure, that's got to, obviously that's the beginning. Yes. How do you see the fulfillment beyond that? Are you sending people out, working with missions organization, doing discipleship?
Great question, Randy.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a run at it. Bobby made reference a little while ago about the Himalaya Mountains, for example. The Himalaya Mountains is 1,500 miles wide. It starts just outside Bhutan and ends up in Afghanistan. But across the Himalaya Mountains are over 20,000 villages across the high altitudes that have never had a church in them in the history of the church. Wow. You can't get to these villages by taking a car or a motorbike or a van or a bus. The only way you can get there is climb and live there. And so the initiative, Give Me This Mountain initiative that began about 2.5 years ago, now there's hundreds of church planters already going at the highest altitudes, planting churches even at the 24,000 foot level. Now, when you're at the 24,000 foot level,
it's hard to breathe.
It snows every day or it's thinking about snowing. Yeah. There is snow on the ground 365 days a year. Yet we've been partnering with church planters that are doing multiple villages across those Himalayas at the same time. So last week there was groundbreaking for the very first Mount Everest training center at the base of Mount Everest, about just where the eagles fly, just a handful of miles to the peak of Mount Everest. It is the highest training center in the world. It will be finished by November of this year. And the purpose of it is to equip church planters at the highest altitudes to take the gospel across those villages. And the Mount Everest Training Center is being built by every major denomination so that we can utilize it together as a church to get the gospel to those highest spots. So we have to think, how do we synergistically develop strategies for the hardest places in the world? The reason why the Great Commission isn't finished is because it's hard. It's hard. And it's hard geographically, it's hard politically, it is hard linguistically. And so if it was easy, I just think we'd have already finished it. But there is enough willpower today, Randy, in the global church to get the job done.
I think the Lord's calling me to the beach base camp that we need to establish. No, that is wild. I mean, really, that is mind blowing and very cool. What are you asking the pastors and the people in the church to do then? Because not everybody's going to go to 24,000 feet to start a church, right? What's the role of the average person in helping to accomplish this?
Well, I really love what Dr. Robinson said many years ago in a dinner that we had right there in Dallas, Randy. He said, we all have a role in the goal. And then I thought about, we all have a part in God's heart. And so we know the goal is everyone. Anything less than everyone is not a God-sized goal. Jesus didn't die for part of the world. He died for all the world. So we have to find what our role is. Whether we'll be a businessman or businesswoman, we have a role. We can pray, we can share, we can sow, we can give and empower others to go. We can develop unique partnerships with different friends and fellow laborers of Christ so to help them to go. We can go on short-term trips ourselves. And there are parts we can all play. Maybe we're going to adopt an unreached people group. Maybe we're going to pray and we're going to sow into them so that they can have Bible translation. We all have a part in this great commission that the Lord has given to all of us.
Yeah. Now, Bobby, with all due respect, Dr. Davis said that the greatest churches are not in North America. I think he was not referring to the one out in Irvine where you're a part of. But seriously, you have an influential church. You have an influential voice. Why did you decide that your church was going to be a part of this network?
Well, one, we're an international church ourselves. So the vision, Dr. Davis's vision, is so right on with what we feel the Holy Spirit has called us to do. We have 6 international offices around the world. We're in Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland. We're in actually more developed parts of the world, because often those parts are forgotten, as weird as that is, how they're all equally important, but most missionaries are going to, the what do they call the 2/3 window, the 1040 window. And that's where between my wife and I, we did about 20 short-term mission trips. So almost all of them were places in Africa and the poor parts of Southeast Asia. But we also see that God needs the message preached in Hong Kong. He needs it preached in China. He needs it preached in Australia and in New Zealand. And these are places we're in many different countries. So I just love the vision. Again, I'm a red-blooded, proud American man, but I'm also know that the church has been around a lot longer than America has. And if America ever ceases to exist, the church will continue because it's built by God, and my hope is to see that my closest tribe are the people who are on a journey to be more like Jesus. And so that's, I just love it that the calling is to enable pastors to do this better and to do it everywhere.
All right.
It's great.
This is the website again. Globalchurchnetwork.tv is what you're looking at. You can also go to www.synergize, SYNERGIZE.tv. And again, that's in the chat, or you can Google it. You'll find it. And be a part of the conference. Now, let's wrap this thing up by telling people what they will get if they join you online, and what, maybe the expectation of them will be after participating with you guys in this conference. Dr. Davis?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of you and the audience. When men and women decide to log on, go to synergize.tv and choose to be with us online, they'll be able to be a part of the entire conference. They'll be able to download all of the content, be a part of the coaching that is also going to be interactive. When we launched a network 20 years ago, Randy, we went online the same time. And we began online training 20 years ago this month. And so we're not saying we've got it all figured out, but when the pandemic came, we just continued doing what we've been doing for 20 years, just at a faster rate. And so I want to encourage leaders to consider joining us on January 25th in the late afternoon. We'll start off with Sheila Walsh that evening. And I'm going to bring a keynote message entitled Recovering the Cutting Edge. What it's going to take for the church in the West to recover its edge. And so that's how we're going to begin. And it's going to be an extraordinary 2.5 days. And we would love your audience to participate with us.
Yep, and you guys can do it. And Bobby, I'll let you wrap it up. What does the average person, the person who comes to your church, person who's watching this right now, what is their role in the Great Commission overall, do you think?
Well, the greatest role that we have first is to be disciples to Christ. If we all have Christ-like character, meaning we're thinking the right kind of thoughts, that we have the right kind of positive attitude, that we love our enemies, that we're patient, kind, that we understand the allure of gentleness. I think that there will be a hunger in a world that's currently struggling to find meaning and is struggling with this sort of inner emptiness. You see it a lot more than you even used to. As systems where people found meaning, patriotism, things like that are kind of waning. I think that there's just a desperation to find out what is life really about. I think if we live as disciples and show people that the joy of the Lord is our strength, that we're full of the Spirit, we're full of vision, that really when we serve God, that the limits and possibilities of life are only limited to God's power. I mean, that is such an awesome thing. And my hope is that when people join Synergize, that they'll just leave with so many new ideas. They'll leave with great ways to lead their team. They're going to leave with great ways to use technology. And I just don't know why anybody wouldn't just get on their computer and log on and join us. I mean, it's going to be such a gift for anyone who's in any kind of Christian leadership.
Well, I hope people will do it, and I have confidence. There's just so many great people there to encourage people and mobilize people, and obviously Dr. Davis has a real vision to reach the world. So I would encourage all you guys watching to at least check it out, synergize.tv and globalchurchnetwork.tv. Is there anything I missed? I'll give Dr. Davis. Is there anything you want to say that I didn't give you the chance?
Thank you once again, Randy, and thank you for the opportunity. It's a joy to serve with you.
Absolutely, and appreciate all you guys hanging out. Hit share, hit follow, hit subscribe, hit like, hit all the buttons, and come back. Check out their websites. Looks just like this. And come back. We've got more for you next week to encourage you, build you up, and you can handle both the online conference and these interviews at noon, or you can just watch mine later. Regardless, have a great weekend. We'll see you again next week on Live Today Live.